In the canneries that fed America, there were two lists. One held the year-round jobs, the mechanical jobs, the jobs with a future. Those belonged to men. The other held the seasonal line jobs, the sorting and the trimming and the filling. Those belonged to women. She could stand at that line for 20 years and never cross to the other list, because the contract itself had sorted the work by sex before she ever walked in. They called it natural. It was a wall, and the season kept her running around the clock beside a machine at number 8 that could take a hand and never slow down. By the time we reach number 4, you will see the children asleep in the cars in the lot outside. Hit the subscribe button. This is a documented record. Number 20, the LIE at the gate. Getting hired at a cannery meant standing in a line outside the gate, sometimes for days, waiting for a manager to point and choose. He chose from the crowd. He favored the women his current workers vouched for, and he passed over the ones he did not like the look of. So women learned what to say and what to hide. They lied about their age if they were too young or too old. They lied about being married, because a married woman might have children, and a woman with children might miss a shift. They lied about the children they already had. The job was seasonal, so this happened again every spring. The line reformed at the gate. The choosing started over. Nobody had to give a reason for choosing one woman and sending another home. The reason was whatever the manager decided that morning. Number 19, the union that wasn't hers. The cannery workers had a union. During the season, most of them were women, and most of them could not vote in it. The union counted only year-round workers as full members with a voice. Seasonal workers, the bulk of the line during the pack, could not cast a ballot in a union election and could not run for union office. The contract that sorted the jobs by sex, that set one pay rate for men and another for women, was negotiated by people. The women on the line were not allowed to choose. When the union printed its ballots and its notices, it printed them in English only. Many of the women read and spoke Spanish, so even the year-round Spanish-speaking women, the ones who could vote on paper, were shut out in practice. The rules were hers to follow and never hers to write. Number 18, the floor lady's word. The women on the line answered to a forewoman, called the floor lady. She decided where each woman stood. That decision was hers alone, and she did not have to explain it. She could move a worker to a slower part of the line or a faster one. She could send her to another line entirely. Some floor ladies were kind. Some forbade the women to talk while they worked and enforced the silence all shift. A worker who crossed her floor lady, or simply spoke a different language, could find herself moved to the worst spot the next morning with no reason given. There was no appeal. The floor lady held the power to make a woman's day easier or harder, and she held it without a rule book. The women watched her and waited to see where she would put them. Number 17, the good spot. On the line, a woman was paid by how much fruit she processed, by weight or by count. The more she handled, the more she earned. But how much fruit reached her hands was not up to her. It was decided by where she stood. A woman near the front of the belt saw a full stream of fruit and could work fast. A woman near the end saw only what the others left, and her pay fell with it. The best spots were the floor ladies to give. When the work was mechanized, it got worse, because the machine set the speed and the woman could not push it faster to earn more. Her wage rode on a belt she did not control and a placement she did not choose. She could work as hard as her body allowed. The number on her check still belonged to the position she was assigned. Number 16, the women's rate. The pay difference was not an accident of who worked harder. It was written down. From the first union agreements in the industry, the pay rates were set by job, and the jobs were split into men's work and women's work. The men's jobs paid more. The women's jobs paid less. This was not hidden in practice or buried in habit. It was in the contract, rate by rate, and it stayed there for decades. A woman operating a machine on the line was doing work no less skilled than a man watching a labeling machine or moving cans in the warehouse. Her rate was lower because her job was classed as a woman's job. The label on the job set the wage. The wage did not follow the work. It followed the sex of the person the work had been assigned to. Number 15, the two lists. Here is the structure underneath all of it. The Teamsters, the union that represented the canneries, wrote the division of labor into the contract. Year-round jobs, the mechanical work, and the warehouse work were men's jobs. Seasonal jobs, the production line, were women's jobs. Two categories, drawn by sex, set down in writing. The year-round jobs were the ones that lasted through the winter, carried steady seniority, and paid a living across the whole year. The seasonal jobs ended when the fruit ran out. A woman hired onto the line was hired onto the shorter list, and the contract gave her no path across to the longer one. This rested on two assumptions the company stated plainly: that only men could do the physical work, and that men needed year-round work to support families, while women were only there to earn a little extra. Both assumptions were written into her wage. Look at what has happened so far, and notice that none of it is about how hard she worked. Before she cut a single peach, the job was already sorted. A list for men and a list for women. A rate for men and a rate for women. A vote for men and none for her. The line did not measure her effort and pay her for it. The line received her already sorted, already priced, already told where she would stand. What follows is what that sorting cost her once the season began and the machines started to run. Number 14, the warehouse door. The year-round jobs lived mostly in the warehouse, loading, moving, storing the cans through the off-season. Those jobs were closed to women. At one large California cannery, women were barred from off-season warehouse work outright until 1971. This mattered more than a single paycheck. The warehouse was where a worker became a regular employee, the kind who held seniority over seasonal workers and kept a job when the fruit stopped. A woman could have more years at the company than the man beside her and still rank below him because he was regular and she was seasonal, and the door to becoming regular was the warehouse door, and it was shut. The security was on the other side of it. She was told the work was too heavy for her. The door stayed closed either way. Number 13, the training she was refused. Suppose a woman with real seniority asked to learn a year-round job. Often the answer was simply no. Women who ran complicated machinery on the line, who had done skilled work for years, asked to be trained for the steadier jobs and were turned down. And when a woman did get moved into one of those jobs, something else could happen. She was given poor training, or almost none. Then she was written up for failing at the work she had not been taught. The refusal and the setup did the same job. One kept her out at the door. The other let her in far enough to be marked a failure and sent back. Either way, the message held. The year-round work was not for her, and the record would now say she had proven it herself. Number 12, the bump. Seniority was supposed to protect long service. For the women on the line, it worked in reverse. A year-round worker with seniority who lost his job was entitled to any job on the line, even if that meant pushing out a seasonal woman who had held it for years. It was called bumping. One worker remembered being bumped from her spot when another woman with a higher number wanted it, and that was simply how it worked. Now imagine the higher number belongs to a regular employee coming down from the year-round list. Her years on that exact line counted for less than his rank in a system she had been kept out of. She trained on the job, she knew it cold, and she could still be lifted out of it on a Monday. The seniority was real. It just was not hers to keep. Number 11, the protection that was a wall. There was a legal reason the heavy, better-paid, year-round job stayed closed to her, and it wore the language of care. California had women's protective laws. They capped how much weight a woman could be made to lift, often around 25 pounds, and they limited how many hours a day and how late at night she could work. On paper, these laws shielded women. In practice, employers used them as the perfect excuse. The year-round warehouse jobs required lifting over the limit and hours past the cap, so women, by law, could not be given them. The protection drew the wall. In 1971, a federal appeals court ruled these state limits could no longer stand because Title VII of the Civil Rights Act had overridden them. The shield had been a fence the whole time. It kept her out of the very jobs that paid. Count the hands on that wall. The company drew the line between men's work and women's work. The union wrote it into the contract and gave her no vote to change it. And the state, meaning to protect her, handed the company a law that made the wall legal. 3 separate powers, none of them acting like a villain, each doing something ordinary, and the result was a ceiling no service could lift. Now the season starts, and we go from what the job denied her to what it did to her body. Number 10, the everyday cuts. The work cut her, not once in a single accident, but constantly, in small wounds that never fully closed. Sorting and trimming fruit by hand, hour after hour, meant a knife or a blade or a sharp edge always near the fingers. The women wore gloves, and still the cuts came through. A little slip, a fast motion repeated 10,000 times a shift, and the hands paid for it. Over a season, over years, the damage added up into hands that ached and scarred and stiffened. This was not treated as an injury. It was treated as the job. A cut hand was ordinary. You wrapped it and kept working because the fruit kept coming and the pay only counted what you processed. The line did not stop for a finger. The finger learned to keep up with the line. Number 9, the hot pack. Some of the worst of it came from heat. Vegetables like spinach were often canned while they were still hot from cooking. The women packed them by hand. Hot leaves, hot cans, shift after shift, pressed against bare fingers. Workers reported burned hands and fingernails that rotted and lifted from the heat and the wet. This was the normal condition of the job, not an emergency. The spinach came out hot because canning it hot was efficient, and her hands were the tool that packed it. Nobody weighed her fingers against the schedule. The schedule won by default. She could feel her own nails loosening, and she packed the next can, because stopping meant less pay, and there was always more coming down the line. Number 8, the machine that never tired. The line was a maze of powerful machines, and the women worked inside their reach. Belts, blades, and gears ran fast and did not stop for a person. A worker had to keep the machine's pace even when she was tired, even when her attention slipped after hours on her feet. When a hand strayed or an apron caught, the machine did not know the difference between fruit and fingers. Serious injuries happened this way, hands and fingers caught in the works. Training was minimal. A woman learned the machine by standing at it, mostly from another woman beside her, and she learned its danger the same way. And there was no federal safety agency to answer to, because the law that created one did not exist until 1970. Until then, how safe the machine was depended on the company that owned it. The machine ran. It was waiting for the tired hand. Number 7, work hurt or lose the day. The cannery kept a nurse on every shift. She could clean a wound, decide when a worker needed a doctor, and tell a woman to go home and rest. And the women often ignored her, not because they felt fine, but because going home meant losing the day's pay, and the season was short. A seasonal worker earned only while the fruit ran, a few months out of the year, and every missed shift was money she would not get back. So she stayed. She worked hurt, worked sick, worked through what the nurse told her to rest. The advice was free. Taking it was not. The choice the job gave her was to protect her body or protect her income, and it made sure she could rarely do both. She almost always chose the paycheck. The season did not wait for her to heal. Number 6, around the clock. When the fruit came in, it could not wait. Peaches, apricots, tomatoes, spinach, all of it ripened on its own schedule and rotted if it sat. So during the pack, the cannery ran without stopping, 3 shifts a day and all night. The women worked whatever shift they were given, days one week, nights the next, swing after that. During the hardest stretches, there were no days off at all. One worker remembered apricot season, when they worked straight through the whole week, because the fruit was there and the company would not waste it. Her body did not set the pace. The harvest did. She slept when the fruit allowed it, and the fruit did not care that she had a family, a home, or a need to close her eyes at a normal hour. Number 5, the clanging that followed her home. The noise never really left her. A cannery is enormous, a building the size of several football fields, packed with machines and rattling cans, and the sound of it was constant and huge. It got louder every year as more machines went in. One worker remembered lying in bed at night and still hearing the cans, the clanging going on, until she finally fell asleep. She had left the plant hours before. The plant had not left her. The sound had worked its way so deep into her that it followed her home and lay down beside her. Her shift ended at the gate. What the shift did to her did not. She closed her eyes to the same clanging she had stood inside all day. So the season took her days and her nights, her hands and her sleep, and it called none of it unusual. This was simply the work. But step back from the burns and the cuts and the clanging, and one number sits under all of it, deciding what her whole working life was worth. The last items are not about a single shift. They are about what the cannery decided a woman on the line was for, and what it was willing to pay her to be it. Number 4, the children in the cars. The night shift created a problem the cannery did not solve. A woman working nights had children at home and nowhere to put them. For a while, some plants ran a nursery on site. By the 1960s, that was gone. So the women managed however they could. Some left their children with relatives or neighbors. Some, with no one to ask and a shift they could not skip, left their children asleep at home while they worked through the night. And some brought the children to the cannery and left them sleeping in the cars in the parking lot, out in the dark, while their mothers stood on the line inside. This was what earning required of her. The company needed the night shift covered. It did not ask what covering it cost her at home. The children slept in the lot. The line ran on. Number 3, the little extra. Underneath every rule was one idea about who she was. The company said it plainly. Men needed year-round work to support their families. Women were only working to earn a little extra. That was the justification for all of it. If her wage was just pocket money, then a lower rate was fine. If she did not really need the job, then a seasonal one was enough. If she was only helping out, then keeping her off the year-round list took nothing important from her. But it was not a little extra. The women in these plants were buying homes with that money, putting children through school, carrying their families on it. The wage was treated as small, so it could be paid as small. The assumption was not a description of her life. It was a discount applied to her on purpose. Number 2, the years that didn't count. Seniority is supposed to reward the years you give a place. Hers were built to expire. Because the line was seasonal, her time did not bank the way a year-round man's did. She could return to the same cannery every season for decades and still be, in the system's eyes, a seasonal worker ranked below regulars, first to be bumped, last to be protected. And as machines replaced tasks, the union let senior workers be pushed down into lower and lower pay brackets rather than lose them outright, so her wage could actually fall as her years rose. When it came to a pension, the gap became a lifetime. The man who lifted cans year-round retired on the security those years had earned. The woman who ran the line beside him, season after season, reached the end with far less to show, because the calendar had counted him and not her. Number 1, the number that was always too low. In the end, it came down to a number. Every worker had a seniority number, and that number decided almost everything. The shift, the spot on the line, whether she kept a job when others wanted it. For the women on the line, the number was built to stay low. She could give a cannery 20 years, know every job on her line, run the machines better than anyone, and still watch a regular employee with a higher number step down from the year-round list and take her place, because his rank counted and her 2 decades did not. One worker remembered it simply. Her number was low, so she was bumped, and a woman with a higher number took her job. That was the whole system in one sentence. She was not paid for what she knew or how long she had done it. She was paid for a number the cannery had made sure would never rise. She is easy to find if you look. A woman in an apron and a hard hat standing at a belt of peaches in a California cannery in 1974, skilled and tired, her hands scarred from the work, her number too low to save her. She was not destroyed by cruel people. The company, the union, and the state were run by ordinary people following a system nobody had stopped to question, and that is almost always how it works. All of it was written down. The contracts that split the jobs by sex, the union rules that gave her no vote, the pay rates set higher for men, and the court records that finally, in the 1970s, forced the canneries to open the year-round jobs and pay back what the sorting had cost. Remember the machine that could take a hand and the children asleep in the cars? They said she was only working for a little extra. She was working for a home and a family and a life, exactly like the man on the other list. Did your mother or grandmother stand on a line like this? Tell me what she was never allowed to become.